You're watching the Killer Potential series. Today we're going to talk about why Slenderman should be a killer in DBD. As of right now, we have 32 killers in this game, and the question is, how exactly would Slenderman's power work alongside these other killers? It would have to be something that feels unique and relevant to the character. Would he be a stealth-based killer with a jump scare ability like the Wraith? Perhaps his power could involve manipulating the map, much like the Hag or Trapper, creating traps for unsuspecting survivors. Slenderman could also use his power of perception manipulation to create illusions and disorient survivors similar to the Doctor. Could this be represented by survivors seeing false generators or pallets, or even other survivors as Slenderman? This would make it harder for survivors to trust their own senses and create a sense of paranoia throughout the match. There's a lot of possibilities for Slenderman in particular because we've seen so many different versions of Slenderman throughout the years. Some versions have tentacles, others can teleport. All versions seem to have Slenderman appear as a really tall, menacing, faceless figure in a black suit. In order to understand how Slenderman could work mechanically in Dead by Daylight, we would need to understand his backstory and how he hunts his victims. If you want to check out other Killer Potential videos that we've covered on this channel, you can click on the title above. I'm also live on Twitch right now streaming the quarterfinals of the DBD Killer Tourney on Twitch. Link for that in the description below. Also, big thanks to Yarman and Slenderman Worshipper for my Twitch community for helping me compile these clips. So my 61,000 friends and the 75% of you that aren't subscribed to this channel, let's talk about Slenderman's killer potential in Dead by Daylight. Warning, there are going to be some strobe effects happening throughout this video. Slenderman's origins can be traced back to German folklore, where the legend Der Grossman emerged in the 16th century. This folklore, confirmed by multiple sources, laid the foundation for the figure we know today. His transition into internet culture occurred in 2009, when he was created on the Something Awful forums. The subsequent confusion with another character, the operator from Marble Hornets, further added to Slenderman's mystique. And understanding these origins and the evolution of Slenderman can provide us with valuable insights into his significance as a potential killer in Dead by Daylight. People always ask and wonder, is Slenderman iconic enough to bring into Dead by Daylight? Since his inception on the internet in 2009, Slenderman became a legendary figure in the realm of horror. From his influence on video games like Slender the 8 Pages and Slender the Arrival, to his presence in literature, film, and art, Slenderman has captivated audiences worldwide. His ability to tap into deep-rooted fears and evoke a sense of unease makes him an enduring and memorable figure in the horror genre. Slenderman has had a very significant impact on the horror gaming genre, particularly in popularizing the found footage style of gameplay. The viral success of the original Slenderman game, Slender the 8 Pages, introduced players to a new form of horror experience. The game's emphasis on an atmospheric tension, limited visibility, and the relentless pursuit of an otherworldly creature created a sense of dread and fear unlike anything seen before. This inspired a wave of indie horror games that followed a similar formula, placing players in immersive and nerve-wracking situations. Slenderman has become an icon of this subgenre, with many developers drawing inspiration from his unique blend of psychological horror and suspenseful gameplay. What makes Slenderman truly iconic is his ability to tap into our deepest fears and primal anxieties. The concept of a mysterious supernatural being that stalks and preys upon individuals, always lurking just out of sight, taps into our fear of the unknown, the feeling of being watched, and the unsettling presence of an entity that defies comprehension. His cultural significance extends beyond the internet. Slenderman has become synonymous with the horror genre, representing a modern boogeyman that captures our imaginations and sends shivers down our spines. And based on the data that I've seen, Slenderman is right up there with some of the most hyped licenses that people want to see come into Dead by Daylight. Unlike other hyped properties who embody a physical, imposing, and relentless force, Slenderman relies on atmospheric terror and psychological manipulation. This ability that he has to instill fear of the unknown and the feeling of being watched sets him apart from the more violent and aggressive nature of other hyped properties like Jason Voorhees or Springtrap. And in Dead by Daylight, incorporating these psychological elements into Slenderman's power set could create a unique gameplay experience. Survivors would have to contend with their own senses and instincts, adding an extra layer of paranoia and suspense to their encounters with the killer. Slenderman is often depicted as an elusive and mysterious figure that stalks his prey from a distance, and has been known to appear in the woods, abandoned buildings, and even the middle of suburban neighborhoods. He typically preys on children and teenagers, luring them away from their homes or friends with promises of adventure or knowledge. One of Slenderman's most notable abilities is his teleportation. This predator has the ability to teleport and manipulate his environment to ambush and disorient nearby victims. Slenderman has been known to appear suddenly behind his victims, causing them to freeze in fear, and then snatch them away with his long tentacle-like arms. One example of Slenderman's hunting tactics is seen in the viral video series Marble Hornets, where he's shown stalking and tormenting a group of film students. Slenderman follows one of the students through the forest, appearing behind the trees and the rocks to unnerve him, before finally cornering him in a tunnel and dragging him away. In another instance, Slenderman uses his ability to manipulate reality to trap a victim in an endless hallway, where every door leads to the same room. He also uses telekinetic powers to hurl objects at his victims, causing them harm and disorientation. Despite being a non-physical entity, Slenderman is a formidable predator who uses fear and psychological manipulation to control his prey. In Dead by Daylight, we can expect Slenderman to use his unique abilities to terrify and disorient survivors, making them easier targets for his deadly grasp. But wait, Slenderman doesn't physically touch his victims in most of the stories. So would this interaction in Dead by Daylight not make sense? One possibility is that Slenderman could use his powers of telekinesis to lift and carry survivors to hooks. This could be visually represented by survivors floating in the air and being pulled towards the hook. And this is a mechanic that isn't too dissimilar from how Sadako carries survivors to hooks. Another possibility is that Slenderman could use his tentacles to wrap around survivors and drag them towards the hook. This would add an extra layer of horror to the game and create unique carrying and hooking animations. Based on Slenderman's abilities, here's the power that makes the most sense for this character. His special ability is called Distorted Reality. This power allows Slenderman to manipulate the environment and disorient survivors. When activated, Slenderman creates pockets of distorted reality within the trial, causing visual and auditory hallucinations for survivors. Distorted reality causes several things to happen. Slenderman has no tear radius and can teleport for a short distance to jump scare survivors. His teleporting ability is similar to the nurse but within a much shorter distance. While distorted reality is active, any survivor within 32 meters has a static effect that comes across their screen, alerting them that Slenderman is nearby. Survivors can also no longer see vaults or pallets, making escape from Slenderman seem impossible. And this effect counters the pallet reading abilities of Windows of Opportunity and Any Means Necessary. Survivors can still use vaults and pallets, but they just can't see them. To balance distorted reality, it can only be activated for 45 seconds before going into cooldown. His special attack has a much shorter cooldown time, and this special attack is called Tentacle Grasp. When activated, Slenderman extends his elongated and shadowy tentacles towards a survivor within range, reminiscent of the Death Singer or a smoker from Left 4 Dead. If he ensnares the survivor, they are temporarily immobilized and nearby vaults seal. Together, distorted reality and Tentacle Grasp adds a unique layer of fear and unpredictability to Dead by Daylight gameplay. Now, it'd kind of be impossible to talk about the Slenderman killer potential without talking about some of the controversies surrounding this license. I'm not going to go into the details of the exact case, but there was an attempted murder that happened in real life in Slenderman's name. This is something that made national news and something that we actually covered in a previous video. If you want to know the details of that case, you can click on the title above. I just think it's of utmost importance that Behavior would honor this license and not make any references to that case. It's one thing to faithfully recreate a killer in Dead by Daylight by doing justice to the license's original source material. Behavior would have to keep this case in mind when designing the killer's power, lore, and backstory. Bringing in Slenderman into Dead by Daylight should really be based off of the horror character that we know from the internet. It should be solely based off of the iconic lore of the fictional character Slenderman. And there really shouldn't be anything described in the lore in particular that references the real life events that happened. This would be a good way to not encourage real life violence, as well as respect all families involved in the incident. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below about all of this controversy. Do you think that Slenderman could still come to Dead by Daylight even though this event happened? Also, let me know what you think about Slenderman's power that we talked about in this video. And there's even more things that could come with a Slenderman chapter. Slenderman's appearances in various settings such as forests, abandoned buildings, and suburban neighborhoods offer many possibilities for map design in Dead by Daylight. These environments could be faithfully recreated to capture the eerie atmosphere associated with Slenderman. Dense forests with tall trees and obscured sightlines would heighten the sense of vulnerability for survivors. Dark and decaying buildings would provide claustrophobic spaces and intense chases and ambushes. Suburban neighborhoods usually associated with safety and familiarity could become as unsettling as they transform into a nightmarish hunting grounds. These carefully crafted map designs would enhance the immersion and the fear factor of Dead by Daylight matches, immersing players in the chilling world of Slenderman. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more content like this. And a reminder, I'm also live on Twitch right now streaming the DBD Killer Tourney, link for that in the description below. Also, make sure to check out our other killer potential videos if you enjoyed this one. That does it for this video. Goodbye.